Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Madison. This is a community where curious seekers gather to explore spiritual, ethical, and social issues in an accepting and nurturing environment. Unitarian Universalism supports the freedom of conscience of each individual, as together we seek to be a force for good in the world. My name is Karen Rose Gredler, and on behalf of the congregation, I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors who are with us this morning. We are a welcoming congregation, so whoever you are and wherever you are on your own personal life journey, we celebrate your presence among us. As we gather in this place and at this time, let us remember we are all visitors in this life. Let us join our hearts and minds as we celebrate this life we share. And now, please silence your cell phones and join me for a few moments of silence for contemplation, meditation, prayer, as we settle in and come fully into this time and place together. Thank you.
Each morning we hold out the chalice of our being to be filled with the graces of life that abound, air to breathe, food to eat, companions to love, beauty to behold, causes to serve. They come in ritual procession, these gifts of life. Whether we deserve them, we cannot know or say, for they are poured out for us. Our task is to hold steady the chalice of our being. We carry it with us as we go, either meandering aimlessly or with destination in our eye. We share its abundance if we have any sense, reminding others as we remind ourselves of the contents of this chalice we don't deserve. Water from living streams fills it, if only we hold it out faithfully. We give back, if we can, something of ourselves, some love, some beauty, some grace, some gift. We give back in gratitude, if we can, something like what is poured into our chalice of being for those who abide with us and for those who will follow. Each morning, we hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, to give. And I invite you now to rise in body or spirit as we join together in the words of affirmation printed in your order of service. Love is the aspiration, the spirit that moves and inspires this faith we share. Rightly understood, love can nurture our spirits and transform the world. May the flame of this chalice honor and embody the power and the blessing of the love we need, the love we give, the love we are challenged always to remember and to share. And I invite you now to join in our in-gathering hymn. It's number 1031. We'll sing it 3 times, and you'll see at the bottom. The first time is I, the second time is you, and the third time is we.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May we be filled, may you be filled, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well, may you be peaceful and at ease. May we be filled, may we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well, may we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well, may we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
And we invite you now to take a moment to turn and greet those around you. Each month, we take time together in the spirit of acceptance and support to name the sorrows and the joys in our lives. We pause to remember those whom we have lost, those from whom we are separated, those to whom we would extend a helping hand or a caring heart. We pause also to join in celebration for life and good living, for love and kind words, for the support of family and friends, for joy and gladness. So we invite you now to share with one another these moments of meaning in your own lives or the lives of your loved ones. Please come to the front of the auditorium using the microphone provided by John, our lay minister, lighting a candle and briefly sharing with us your message. You may also come forward and wordlessly light a candle. And if for any reason you can't come to the front, raise your hand and John will bring the microphone to you. I now open our time of sharing of these moments of our lives.
Hi there, my name is Paula Jean Tari, and I lit that candle. I didn't know this was part of the program. You know, I don't know if I'm grateful or pissed. You know, my life has been pretty difficult for the past 4+ years at the hands of somebody impersonating me online, portraying me in a very negative light. And, you know, I almost didn't make it. And I'm standing here now. It's a miracle. My life has been made a blood sport of, and everybody seems to be participating in that, knowingly or unknowingly. I'm just asking it to stop. And my takeaway from this is that it was such trauma on such magnitude. And if that's what was needed to help me to break through and to find my spirit and my soul, then that's what it needed to take. But it wasn't fun. And it's not fun, so spread the word. Thank you.
Mr. Symmetry.
Hi, I'm Tom Heine. This is just a big brag on my daughter, who's an engineer and environmentalist, and someone with a great social conscience. She is overseeing an agency in Portland that takes care of 3 counties and their services. And last year they built 650 apartments for low and moderate income folks. This year they're going to be building another 900 in that region. And the biggest thing they want to do is take care of their neighbors who are homeless. To me, if they can do that, Madison can, and I hope she teaches me better. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
My name is Janice Knapp-Cordes. A member of our Chalice group, Journey Circle, is having surgery on her shoulder on March 3rd. So we would ask that you keep her in your thoughts and prayers.
Hi, I'm Sheesh Boyard, And I'm sitting here with my daughter, and I am just totally grateful for all of the good friends and just being alive and happy.
I got it, John.
We're lighting this candle for our dog Pepper, who we had to say goodbye to on Thursday.
And John, if you'll light one last
Kelly, if I may,
go ahead.
I'd like to light a candle of joy. My niece, Jennifer McGevna McGrady, was accepted into the A100 class at the United States State Department and will start in the class on March 30th.
Wow.
She will become a Foreign Service officer, and Helena and I will be attending her Flag Day, hopefully sometime in May, when she is actually sworn in as an officer in the United States State Department. And she's been receiving guidance from Helena, who has 30 years experience in the Foreign Service and is helping her, guiding her through the intricate labyrinth of life in the Foreign Service and helping her through the early days of getting her an assignment, getting packed out, and doing all the intricacies of what becoming a Foreign Service officer is. And Jenny's going to serve the people and the country of the United States, all of you. Not so much the man who sits in the White House.
And if you'll light that one last candle for all those joys and all those sorrows that live within the fullness and the quiet of our hearts. And I invite you to rise in all the ways we do. Our hymn is number 1012. And while we're singing, our children and teachers may leave for classes.
When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, then I may learn to care as you do. Then I may learn to care. When I am angry, will you still embrace me? When I am thoughtless, will you understand? Will you believe in me? Stand by me coilingly. Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me acceptance, then I may learn to give as you do. Then I may learn to give. When I am troubled, will you listen to me? When I am lonely, will you be my friend? Will you be there for me, comfort me tenderly? Will you share some of your feelings with me? If you will show me commitment, then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to love.
Please be seated. Our reading today from Teresa Honey Youngblood. I want to tell you something about the June garden. Not about the knee-high rainbow chard or the hot pink zinnias, though both are splendid. Look closer. Beneath heart-shaped leaves, hiding parallel to their own twining vines, are the humble treasures of early summer, the green beans. In the early 2000s, when I got serious about growing a significant amount of my family's food, I signed up for a plot at the Florida A&M University Community Garden in my then city of Tallahassee, Florida. The FAMU Community Garden is one of the oldest community gardens in the country and run by the historically Black university. I was one of only a few white gardeners. There were 2 Asian American women. The other gardeners were Black. On my first day, I pulled up in my beat-up little Volvo, toddler in tow, and gazed out at the huge 40 by 40-foot expanse, spade in hand, but having no idea where to begin. Mr. Rose from 2 plots over saw me standing there. "Start with green beans," he yelled. "They're forgiving, and they build up your soil." I would later find out that with care and attention over the years, he himself had built his soil up right out of one type, red clay, and into another, rich loam. The next week, he came over to my plot with his tiller. The week after that, he helped me hook up an irrigation system made entirely from recycled parts. "We help each other around here. That's how we do," he said. Everything that came up in his garden was a foot higher and a sight denser than the neighboring plots. And often I would overhear other gardeners sitting on the tailgates of their trucks in the car paths, chatting with Mr. Rose about football, as they snuck in a question here and there about how his vegetables grew so fine. He would rib them a little bit first, but then share advice and offers of assistance freely. "Most of us give away much more than we eat, but that's how it ought to be," he said. I was shy and awkward most of that year, never able to fully relax into Mr. Rose's warm hospitality. I watched, listened, and learned, but didn't really form friendships, unable to get past my worries about saying or doing the wrong thing as often the only white person in an energetic, bustling, new to me, mostly Black space. That was my loss. When we moved the following summer, I took with me that regret, many lessons on food growing, and a very deep appreciation at having witnessed and experienced firsthand the welcoming of the stranger.
Our anthem today is a sort of amalgam of various indigenous musical traditions. The first of the 2 melodies that we're singing is a Navajo prayer translated into English, and the second is by a living songwriter, a wind song, Martin. Both are found in your teal hymnal if you're curious about the words. You can check that after the service. Our drummer is Doug Hill. He's going to play a Sioux drum with Buffalo Hide, and a Winnebago Rattle.
Thank you, Meeting House Chorus, for the beautiful gifts of music this morning. And thank you, Doug, man of many talents. Our reading today from Teresa Honey Youngblood instantly transported me back to the small court where I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and to a very special place that was once there. Our street was small, just wide enough for one car to pass at a time. Houses that were pretty close together, Kids running around most of the time with mothers yelling for them out the windows when it was time to come home. And a massive, magical garden that was the purview and the happy place of a man I knew only as Goomba. I had to call my mother this week to ask her more about him and even to ask his name, which turned out to be Tony Capriola. Who knew? He had a fascinating language for us children. It was this beautiful, almost musical blend of English and Italian, and he would spontaneously break into song. He spent his days out in the garden growing tomato plants that were as tall as we were, and corn that was 3 times our size. In the summer months when our beleaguered parents were trying to figure out how to keep us occupied for all those many days, he was always there. We would play hide and seek among the vegetables, and then he would show us how to till the soil, how to tell what were weeds that needed to be picked, and what were plants that needed to be watered. As the plants grew, he would tell us stories of Italy, of fields of fruit as far as the eye could see, of the sweet delight of eating warm vegetables right off the vine in the summer sun. We would have told you that we knew everything there was to know about this man. We were the ones who listened to his stories and heard his songs. But it wasn't until we were grown and he was gone that we learned more about his open spirit and generous heart. Only much later that we would learn that the plants he cared for so tenderly became the saving grace of many families on our street. Families that were struggling to provide food to hungry children, who would wake in the morning to discover a basket of warm fruits and vegetables left on their porch in the early morning hours. He never said it was him. He never took any credit. Somehow he just knew, and he did what he could. To us kids, he was a kind old man who had funny words we didn't hear anywhere else, who wanted to know about our days, who taught us the importance of tilling the soil, planting the seed, and hoping for better things to come. It wasn't until later that we learned of the hard times he experienced when he arrived in this country, how he had survived because of the kindness of others, and then how he had made it his mission to grow enough food so that no one on Evans Court would be hungry or alone. In this man, I learned from a very young age what it means to live a generous life, to live from a place of abundance, believing that moving through the world with a generosity of spirit, to do what one could, was how we needed to live. This was indeed how we would survive. Generosity as a way of being for Tony came from this knowledge of hard times, of loss and pain, of knowing what it means to need someone else to survive, needing to rely on others, and then knowing it was his mission to now be there for those after him. Reverend Scott Alexander says, generosity is the relational virtue of creating an abundance of kind and caring traffic in and around your life. Being generous in this way means that day in and day out, you give freely of yourself, pouring yourself out into the world, giving time, care, attention, support, sharing concrete resources of all sorts freely from your inner reserves so that others might be enriched and blessed. The 20th century British mathematician and philosopher Alfred North Whitehead observed that the secret to happiness lies in knowing this: we live by the law of expenditure. We find the greatest joy not in getting, but in expressing what we are. There are tides, he said, in this ocean of life, and what comes in depends on what goes out. The currents flow inward only where there is an outlet. Nature does not give to those who will not spend. Here, gifts are merely loaned to those who will not use them. Empty your lungs and breathe. Run, climb, work, and laugh. The more you give out, the more you shall receive. Now, we all know that when we think about generosity and giving, that there is this little voice that creeps in, a fearful voice that says, "Really? If you keep giving, you will not have enough. If you open yourself to another, you could get hurt, get taken advantage of, made to look like a fool." I understand this fear, and there is a need to find balance in giving and receiving. And being limited by fear never brings joy, doesn't bring security or peace. Fear brings worry and withdrawal, isolation, and a sense of not being connected to others and to life itself. Giving is an act of letting go, of moving forward, moving in closer. This is why I believe generosity takes practice, a practice that helps us recognize that voice of fear that says we don't have enough time, enough love, enough safety. When we recognize that voice, we can hear it, and we can pause, and we can become curious. We can ask, when we hear that voice, how does it feel in our body? Does it feel open and receptive? Does it feel constricted and tight? Generosity, it seems, may not come naturally to us. We must practice. The Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield says that our fear creates a contracted and false sense of self. This false or small self grasps our limited body, feelings, and thoughts and tries to hold on and protect them. We are afraid to open, to change, to live fully. A contracted identification with this body of fear becomes our habit. Out of this fear, greed and hatred and separation arise. Yet underneath it, if we can practice getting underneath it, we will find an openness and a wholeness that is our true nature. If living in this body of fear has become our habit, then we must practice generosity instead, until it too becomes a habit. Imagine going through our days looking for that true nature, that inherent goodness in everyone you meet. We all want to be seen for the people we are inside, the complex and inherently good people we are. Yet we are quick to judge. We fail to give others the benefit of assuming good intent, of seeing the world from their eyes, of recognizing they are human just as we are, with good days and bad, with sorrows and joys, with hopes and fears, just as we have. Practicing living from a place of generosity can help us remember this. Jeffrey Lockwood shares this story. He says, once upon a time, a thief snuck into the room of a sleeping Buddhist monk. As the burglar rummaged about, the monk awoke. The startled thief ran into the snowy streets with the monk racing after him. "Please stop," the monk called. And the man finally did, realizing that his pursuer was no threat. "You will need this," the monk gasped, handing the thief his own coat. "What do you mean?" the man asked. "I saw that you dashed from my room into the cold without so much as a winter wrap, and I realized that I had both a woolen blanket and a coat. Jeffrey says, having heard this implausible tale of sainthood years ago, I forgot the details, but I remembered the essential parts. Ordinary people can't be morally compelled to make such extraordinary sacrifices, but for whatever reason, perhaps the sheer absurdity of such unconditional altruism, this parable has stuck with me. It rattled around in my skeptical mind until the day my wife played the role of the Buddhist monk. Nan and I headed into the mountains for a day of skiing with our children, who were 4 and 6 at the time. In the chaos of packing up that morning, we had forgotten our daughter's mittens. The wind was whipping and the mercury hovered in the teens, so no mittens meant no skiing. But for Nan, the solution was as obvious as it was simple. She always wore 2 pairs of socks. So she removed the outer layer and she pulled them over Aaron's hands. Problem solved, we headed down the trail. I found her approach rather clever, the sort of practical motherly thinking that often eludes my analytical mind, but it was hardly heroic. However, the bitter cold and the woolen warmth evoked that parable of the monk's coat. Among the snow-hushed pines, I remembered how the story ended. I don't understand, the man said to the monk. It is simple, the monk answered. You have nothing at all to keep you warm. But you are a fool to give away your coat, leaving you with only a blanket, the man replied. If I had 2 gloves on one hand and none on the other, would I be a fool to put one of them on my bare hand? The monk asked. The man said nothing, took the coat, and hurried down the street. When we are not alienated, Jeffrey says, when love draws us into the suffering of others, when we see that our happiness is entwined in their well-being, then generosity is neither foolish nor heroic. It is the simplest and most obvious choice. Generosity is paradoxical. Those who give receive back in return. By spending ourselves for others' well-being, we enhance our own lives. In letting go some of what we have, whether that's time, attention, patience, or material goods, we better secure our own lives. By giving ourselves away, we move toward flourishing. In a wonderful book called The Paradox of Generosity, Christian Smith and Hilary Davidson found that people who are generous with their time, relationships, resources, are happier, healthier, and more resilient than their less generous counterparts. Relationally generous people are clearly healthier than the ungenerous. Being a generous neighbor, friend, coworker, personally valuing the importance of being a generous person are all significantly related with greater personal happiness, physical health, a stronger sense of purpose, avoidance of depression, and a greater sense of personal growth. What would it look like in your life to greet the world each day with a spirit of abundance and generosity? With generosity as a spiritual practice, living with the belief firmly rooted within you that when you give and give freely, you will not be used up. You will not be left wanting, but in fact will naturally replenish your heart. It is, as Whitehead suggested, only by living a life of expenditure will we in the end know and have life's deepest riches. Live in a way that creates an abundance of kind and caring traffic in and around your life. I think back to Tony Capriola. I see him leaning on his garden gate, waving hello to those who passed by, greeting everyone with a smile and a wave, and often a warm tomato shining in the sun. Did he know this secret of generosity, I wonder? Did he realize that the more he gave, the happier he became? I don't believe he was reading any books on generosity or studying the latest research. I just think he knew. Whenever we live with generosity, not only do we bless the world and those around us, we are ourselves quietly blessed. This is the holy miracle of generosity. So I'll leave you today with one of my favorites from Maya Angelou. She has so many, but I think this one is my favorite. She says there's this African American song from the 19th century that says, when it looks like the sun wasn't gonna shine anymore, God put a rainbow in the clouds. Imagine. I have had so many rainbows in my clouds. I've had a lot of clouds, but I have had so many rainbows. And one of the things I do when I step up on the stage, when I go to teach a class, when I go to direct a movie, I bring everyone who has ever been kind to me with me. Black, white, Asian, Spanish-speaking, Native American, gay, straight, everybody. I say, come with me, I need you now. I don't ever feel I have no help. I've had rainbows in my clouds. And the thing to do, it seems to me, is to prepare yourself so that you can be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. Somebody who may not look like you, may not call God the same name you do if they call God at all. You see, they may not eat the same dishes prepared the way you do, may not dance your dances or speak your language. But I believe that the thing to do is be a rainbow. Prepare yourself to be a blessing to somebody. That's what I think. And I invite you now into the giving and the receiving of our offering. Today's offering is our opportunity to give thanks for the abundance of our lives, and it is a recognition of our deep connections. Our outreach offering recipient this weekend is Voces de la Frontera. You can find out more about their work in the red floors in your order of service, or also out at a table in the Commons after service. We thank you for your generosity.
As always, we thank you for the many ways you give to our beloved community. Today, in addition to your generous financial stewardship, we sincerely appreciate the work of those helping to make our services run smoothly this morning. Our lay minister is John McGavna. Our greeter is March Schweitzer. Our ushers are Karen Jagger and Jim Jagger, as well as Sue Haug. Our hospitality folks making coffee are Jeannie Hills and Jean Sears. Our welcome table is being personed by Tom Heine, and our pulpit palms are being cared for by Hannah Pinkerton. We'd also like to thank the members of our Meeting House Chorus. This group of volunteers brings us consistently wonderful performances, and we appreciate it. I also have a couple of other announcements. Please stop by the computer stand in the Commons where two of our board members, Rebecca and Dorrit, will be waiting to talk with you about the ministerial search process. So if you have any questions, concerns, things you want to ask them about, please see them out in the Commons to your left of the doors after the service. Also, watch out for second and third grade class members who will be coming around to greet you during the fellowship hour in an act of and practice of welcoming hospitality. Thank you.
And now let us rise in body and or spirit to sing our closing hymn together, number 301 in the gray hymnal, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky. We'll sing all 5 verses. Touch the earth, reach the sky, walk on shores while spirits fly, over the ocean, over the land, our faith a quest to understand. Touch the earth, reach the sky, children ask the reasons why. We're on lives the answers show, and by our love they learn and grow. Touch the earth, reach the sky, all are born and all shall die. Life's the time left in between to follow a star, to build a dream. Touch the earth, reach the sky, hug the laughter, feel the cry. May we see where we can give, for this is what it means to live. Touch the earth, reach the sky, soar with courage ever high, spirits joining as we fly, to touch the earth, to reach the sky.
And so I say ours is a story of faith and hope and love. I say it is our need for one another that binds us together, that brings us laughing and limping into relationships and keeps us at it when we otherwise might despair at the fix we are in. I say it is the holy we need, the eternal beyond our comprehension, and one place we can find it is here in our life together. And I say there is a value connecting and upholding us, and its divine manifestation is love. We extinguish our chalice flame, holding its glow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again. Blessed be, go in peace, and please be seated for the postlude.